All right, guys, we're back with the podcast. It's been a while, I know. Well, we had our daughter, and kind of one thing, builds up and it keeps on building up. So we were very busy and just we're struggling to find time to do the podcast. But we felt this is like the best time than ever to get back into it. And with that being said, we're going to be telling a story. And so November is not many people know National Adoption Awareness Month, and Laura actually has a personal story to tell about that. So I have these like list of questions I got from an interview online. I got this online from another questionnaire. Just some softball questions that we could riff off of and kind of break the uncomfortableness of it. So, I'd like you to introduce yourself. The questions they had were name, obviously. For them, they were all anonymous, so it wasn't an obvious question, but I'll say it here. But they had like current age and like the age that you were when you had given the child up for adoption.
Okay, so my name is Laura Clapperidge. I am currently 27 years old, and at the time that I put my son up for adoption, I was 24 years old.
Now, I know it was mentioned, obviously, that we have kids, but their big question was like one of their first big questions was, did you have children before or after?
So the answer is yes, I did have children before and after. I have two sons, one of them who is currently 7 years old, and my younger son who is 5 years old, and we have our daughter who is 5 months old.
And I would like to mention that we had gone through a break, like a substantial break, after our second child was born. So this had happened when we were separated, for any confusion that people, or any questions that people would have. What in your heart made you put it up for adoption? And the second kind of part here is, did you consider alternatives?
So at first I was very confused and I didn't really know how to approach a decision or really I guess for the first couple of weeks I was pretty much in denial and I didn't want to believe that it was true. So at first I my decision was that I was going to have an abortion and my dad was going to drive me to the abortion clinic, which he did, and I decided to turn against that idea and I didn't have an abortion. And a couple of weeks after that, I decided that it would be best for me to put up my child up for adoption so that he can get the love that he deserves from a family that is in need and wants to have a child and can't have children.
Now, this is gonna get it's just kind of hard hitting right off the bat. Um, Again, another two-parter. How involved was the birth father, and was it, I guess, con- consensual? That's like the only way I could really the only word I can think of.
Okay. Um, so the first question, the father, he was absent. And the second question, no, was not consensual. It was sexual assault.
Mm-hmm. We don't have to go into too much detail. It's more about the adoption story.
Right.
Um, so this is one that I came up with. Who were the first three people you told about it? Like the pregnancy, the adoption, and how did they respond? I want to answer my part. That at first because I know I was one of the first three.
Yeah.
I felt like betrayed, not obviously by what had happened. It was you were betrayed. Like you had something stolen from you. But I just felt like we were working on things to get better, and it was like a big wrench in the gears. And I remember kind of giving like an ultimatum in a way, like if we want to repair things, you have to. Like I wasn't really pushy for adoption or for abortion, but I was like, you kind of have to do the adoption route. And I felt at the time, and even now, I still feel pretty guilty about that, just because I was very pushy. Like I was just super blunt about it. I was like, "This is exactly how I feel. Take it or leave it," kind of.
Right. So the very first person that I told was my dad, and he was supportive since the beginning. He told me that he would be there every step of the way, and that with whatever decision I make, he was going to be there for me. And then I remember after I talked to him, I called your mom, and I told her, and I just told her, I was like, "Hey, I have to tell you something, but you can't talk. You can't say anything. Just let me tell you." And I talked for a good while. And finally, I told her, and she put her heart out. Your mom being adopted helped me decide that adoption was the best case scenario.
I'm very glad it helped. I honestly, I know she was one of the people, but it never crossed my mind that
Yeah.
her being adopted is like, obviously I know that she is, but
Right.
it's just because it's so natural to me, and
Yeah.
it's such a normal thing. Like I have my family, we all have like aspects of us that have like adopted kids. So just it's a normal thing that it didn't really cross my mind.
Right.
Um, what are some big fears you had or still do have about like the whole thing?
Um, Hold on a second. Let me get a tissue. So, at first, the biggest issue, like the biggest fear that I had, was that he was gonna feel that I didn't love him, and that I was just giving him up because I didn't want him. And obviously that's not the case, but when you're growing a human inside of you, you just kind of think the worst, especially when it's a human that wasn't created from love.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my biggest fears was that he was going to hate me. Even now, I feel like that's one of my biggest fears, that he's going to grow up and he's going to not want anything to do with me.
Honestly, it's one of my biggest fears too, because we do have our daughter. So it's like we have the two kids, then there's little boy, and then there's our daughter. So it's like, without context, it looks pretty bad. Like you
Right.
had two. It's like I'm the middle child in a way, Like I'm one of the middle children, and without context, it would make me feel very insecure and like unloved and unwanted. Like I know every situation is individual, and you kind of have to view them subjectively. But to a kid, especially the younger they are, I don't think they understand that kind of stuff.
No.
So we will say that we actually have a good relationship. You have a great relationship with the family that you found.
Yes.
So how did you actually find them?
So I went through an adoption agency called Angel Adoptions, and it's based off of Illinois. It's actually in Crystal Lake, so not too far from here. I gave them a call, and immediately I was given I guess a counselor, and I had somebody to talk to the whole way, like every step of the way. I remember one of the first things was that they would send me this package with all of their information and profiles, I guess, of all these families. And my counselor told me, she's like, "I want you to pick your top 10 families that you think will be best suited for your child." So when I got my package, I was a little bit overwhelmed because there's like tons and tons of families out there that want a child. There's so many people that have infertility issues, or they just want to adopt,
Right.
just because.
And some wait for years and years.
Right, exactly. So I picked my 10, and then she said, "Okay, this is how it's going to go. From that 10, I want you to narrow it down to your top 3. So I narrowed it down to my top 3, but in my head, I knew exactly who I wanted to choose. And it was this one family, and they just stood out from the beginning because they just seemed like such loving people, and it just felt right. And so after I told her who I wanted to go with, um, she immediately connected me to them, and from there it was just like it was meant to be. Like we have such a beautiful connection.
Yeah, it's really weird, especially because I was involved with, like, I wouldn't say involved, but I was on the sidelines for all this stuff.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to see how just a short description of somebody and like a little background or whatever, and then just pictures.
Yeah.
And it's like, yep, that's them. And they had flown out to meet us before baby was born and everything, specifically to meet her. And it was just an immediate, like, I felt it that she made a great decision. Not putting down any other family, and I feel bad that other families have to wait so long. But it was just one of those things where it was perfect circumstances. Like, it worked out perfectly. I feel that they got the greatest thing in the world. They asked us not to use their name, which we understand. That's their privacy. It's their right. But they know that they're awesome people.
Yeah,
They know that. I'm especially grateful in general that as much as it's not part of me or part of like my end of things, it would still bother me a lot if I knew that the child went to somebody that wasn't giving him 100%. If you would like, you can say your given birth name to him.
Um, so I actually want to talk a little bit about the parents.
Okay, that's fine.
So they did fly out to come and see us, and they didn't have to do that. They could have just came out when he was born or after he was born, but they decided to go above and beyond, and they wanted to come and meet us and my whole family. They met your mom and my dad, and it was honestly a beautiful experience to have them come and meet us. And then when he was born, they were able to be in the delivery room with me. It was me, them, and it was honestly like the best feeling in the world to know that his parents were there watching him be born.
Yeah, there was a big thing with that the post that I had found where a lot of them they asked like when like the time of when you gave it up, and like even though a lot were pre-planned obviously, some it was like newborn, like a couple weeks,
Right.
some it was a couple days, some was like the one specifically that stood out was a woman, it was like a year and a half I think.
Wow.
Like a weird, it was like a weird the way that they had the terms, but basically like they she had lived with them and everything,
Mm-hmm.
but she was there for breastfeeding and stuff like that, and more for like the mother contact kind of thing.
Right.
And then after that, she was like, "You're relieved of your duties."
Yeah, see, no, I feel like that would be way more painful because even for me, I gave birth to him, and then immediately I kind of pushed myself back. I didn't want to let myself have a connection with him because I knew that he wasn't going to be mine. I knew that he was their child.
Right.
So as soon as he was born, the doctor asked if I wanted to hold him, and I said no. Give him to his parents.
Mhm.
And he was an amazing doctor because he understood exactly. And one of the things with the doctors and the nurses, I felt like I had to tell my story every single time, which I wish like they could have kept a better record of that because it was hard, especially while being pregnant, to say like this baby that you're telling me about, I'm giving him up.
Right.
So I would like you not to ask questions.
Mhm.
And it was just hard to repeat that over and over and tell them that I was putting him up for adoption.
Mhm.
And I just wish that like they would have kept notes or something because it was hard.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, and as hard as it is, it doesn't make it easier when like they do understand, but they also like they deal with so many people all day. Like they don't have
Right.
that that sense of like awareness, I guess.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that they can affect people, with that kind of stuff.
Right.
I think though, the quicker that you do it, it's like the Band-Aid thing, you know,
Yeah.
it hurts more in one chunk, but the pain goes away quicker, like it disperses quicker. Like I'm sure even to this day, it's been 3 years now, um, almost 3.5 actually.
Yeah.
That it still hurts, but if you had spent more time, you would have been more attached, you know,
Yeah.
or like had it been a different family that you had chosen, maybe you would have thought differently. Like, you know, I would hate to say I wasted your people's time, but you know what, guys, like I don't feel comfortable with this, and
Mhm.
I would rather just take it myself. So I
Right.
think that too, as much as it would have been fine for you
Yeah.
in the long run, it really did help that you had such a strong bond with them.
Yeah.
That the bond was so strong, and you felt so strongly about their love towards this baby that was just like a thing, you know, like basically a figment of their imagination. Like
Mhm.
everything that they thought of was just kind of conjured up on the spot, you know.
Yeah.
Like even like any first time parents, you don't know what to expect or anything,
No.
and so they're putting all their faith into you that you're taking care of their soon to be child, you know. So it just I don't know. I think because of that, it helps too, knowing that he went to like the perfect type of family. You know?
Yeah, he really did. He's very well loved by his parents and the grandparents, and just everybody in that family is so amazing to him, and they give him everything that he wants and that he needs, you know. And he'll never have anything less.
I had to pause it real quick, but I just wanted to mention that they also have in their family people that are adopted. Like I believe one of them has a younger sibling that was adopted. So it just shows to me above all that um, the more you're around it, the easier it is, and that's why we're telling the story. Is like there's this weird stigma with adoption. It's like we all say that there's so many homeless kids or there's so many like neglected kids and all this stuff, and it's just like sheltered dogs and animals and stuff. Like I'd hate to correlate humans to animals, but it's really the same. Like we have so many children that need love and a good
Yeah.
home, and it's just stigmatized. Like it's an odd thing. Like if you didn't, you know, if your blood is not in that child, you can't love them the same. Like I'm sorry to say it,
That's not true.
it doesn't work that way. Like if you really have love and you want to be a parent, it doesn't matter who it is. Like
Mhm.
you will be. You know. Have anything to add? I had no more questions. So
Let me think for a second.
I mean, it's a weird kind of like hard thing to prep for. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you don't really know what to ask or what to expect.
Hmm.
There's just a lot. I do want to talk about my pregnancy a little bit.
Okay.
Um, so it took me a while. Like I said, I was in denial for a while, and I didn't see a doctor until I was 16 weeks pregnant because I was I didn't want to believe it, and it was just hard for me to, I guess, know that that was my reality. And so finally I just told myself, hey, there's a human growing inside of you. You got to take care of yourself, and you got to take care of this tiny baby that's growing inside of you. So it was hard at first, and I mean it's still hard to this day.
Hmm.
But I'm grateful, and I'm glad that I did it. You know, things turned out well for him, and I hope he knows that I'll always love him.
Yeah. Of course. I don't see why um, they would ever make him think otherwise. You know.
Right.
There's no reason to assume that. It's another thing. That like did you guys have like in the packet or anything, like was there terms to any of it, or was it all just like more
Yeah.
like all on word, like on good faith?
Yeah, there was like no like how to guide. It was just like you pick this, and then you just hope that your child goes to this family. And
No, I mean like did they explicitly say like you can have contact, or like it's like open closed,
um
or
no, well, kind of. So they they gave me this counselor, and she she was kind of like a lawyer, I would say. It was for legality and for, the adoption process.
hmm
So she did, ask, like, do you want to keep contact with these people? Do you want Do you want them to give you updates on the baby? And of course, I wanted to. And I mean, knowing that when I picked the family, they were totally, totally for, us being.
Like, did you know that just based on like their thing, or
No, no, no,
just
no.
okay?
It was just how we connected, and
Okay.
they were totally.
Did you ask them of that though? Like, did you
I
explicitly say like, "Hey guys, like, this is all going well and everything. Like, but do you mind if after it's all said and done, we like it's not over, you know,
Yeah, I don't remember if I asked.
or if it was just
I
implied?"
think it was just implied because we had such a great connection,
Mm.
and I mean, we didn't mention this before, but we did visit him, and they never not wanted to talk to me and not wanted to give me updates or anything. They're always they have such love, and they have open arms for us.
Well, yeah, I mean, like when prepping this, I told you to give them a text, just a quick like run by, like, "Hey, we're doing this. Is that cool?" You know, and got the full permission, obviously, as long as no names, which again, privacy, that's cool. But no, just because the articles that I was pulling up, it was almost like heartbreaking how some people were promised like, "Oh, this is completely open,"
Right.
and like up until they're 18, when they totally cool, well, it's like you're gonna be just a family friend kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna be that one aunt that just always comes to parties. That
Mhm.
like we'd be cool if like you don't tell him. Like we'll tell him when we're ready, or we'll tell he or she when they're ready. But like we were cool with you being around.
Right.
And then the baby comes and it's like they completely swap their tune, and then like they go from being like this is the most open to like you don't get anything.
Yeah, see, that would be so heartbreaking for me because not only are you growing this human inside of you and you're giving him up for, to another family and then just nothing, nothing.
Right.
And I feel like we we were given the best scenario, you know. It's literally the most amazing adoption story that I've ever heard of to
Right.
this day.
Yeah, maybe we can't articulate it properly, like because it may not sound like it's the greatest thing in the world, but like the one I will bring up, this woman was told that for the first 3 years of this child's life, she could like they'll send her a picture, like holiday, like everything, like basically like a Facebook type thing. It's more recent in history, and so it's like we'll send you pictures all the time, we'll talk to you all the time, everything, and then after about 3, they're gonna start getting a little bit older and all, and we'll cut it back to like when you request the pictures. So baby's born. They didn't send one thing, and so the kid turned. And this is all like legal. Like a lot of these things, people get lawyers involved. Obviously, it's a very stringent matter, you know. So this is like a legal paper that this lady had that said all of these terms. And so after 3 years, she's like, "Hey guys, the first set of terms is over with. The 3 years passed, so now the second set of terms is now in effect." And she had contacted the agency because everything was to be done through the agency. And they sent her back a packet of like 4 pictures or something, and like a holiday card. And they're like, if you ever try to contact us again, we're gonna sue you. We're just gonna ruin your entire life. Like we're gonna make you lose every single penny trying to fight for your freedom, basically. And it was really heartbreaking to read because not only does it tell me like you're trying to screw this woman over, but it almost tells me like you don't want your kid to ever know they were adopted. So it kind of defeats the whole point of like adoption, you know.
Right.
Like to me about the adoption, you're supposed to be so cool with it that you can talk about it like this, you know, like. And as for the family that he went to, like there's no doubt that this little boy's adopted, you know.
Yeah, right.
So like they can't deny that, and they never would.
No.
But there are people out there that literally take in kids and they do it as like we're gonna adopt and everything, but we're never gonna tell them. We're never gonna tell anybody. Like we're gonna act like my wife was pregnant for 9 months and everything, and it's crazy to me, and it breaks my heart that people are so cool enough to do the adoption, but then they're like, we don't want everything else that comes with that. It's like they're almost embarrassed, again, that weird stigma that comes with it, and it's just sad, especially for the women that have to deal with it, like when you're choosing the potential families, and you go over like open, closed, like they all want to push for open, so they pick this specific family because in their bio they are the most open, and then they just like shut them down, you know. And it's really sad that people would ever do
And
that.
I mean, it happens and it's totally legal, you know?
Yeah, even though she had like the legal documents and everything from the agency and like her lawyer and everything, all they have to do is just like, okay, we're gonna take you to court and fight it. And a lot of people that adopt have lots of money, and so all they have to do is just throw more money at a lawyer than you can, and to the point where you just can't fight it anymore.
Yeah. Or there's no point,
Like
you know.
that's what I mean. Like they drag it out so long. It's like we're just gonna drain your pocketbook and just make it so like against your like it's not worth your while at all. And so people just like, was it worth it? Is it really worth it to do all of this for me to get nothing out of this, or do I just give up? A lot of people have to give up. It's really
Yeah.
sad.
And then have to wait 18 years for actual contact with their child. And most of the time, the children do reach out to their birth mother.
Hmm. And the sad part is that even though like when they do reach out and everything, like they contact things probably are good, like that they got that. But what if that kid spent the first 18 years of their life, if they did know they were adopted, like, oh, my mom like hated me, they just wanted to get rid of me, my parents told me all these lies and everything, and they can make up whatever story they want because there's no contact, you know. So it takes them until they're an adult, and like when you tell even an 18-year-old that their entire life is a lie, like their adoptive parents are gonna hate their guts, they're gonna be really weird about their biological parent, like it can totally mess somebody up mentally and
Oh,
have
yeah.
years of psychological trauma,
Yeah.
all for somebody because they wanted to be a hero in their own little imagination, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair, but we also can't control people, you know.
No. That's also why I wanted to share my story, because my story is a lot different, and I wanted to give awareness that adoption is not a negative thing, you know. It's okay to give up a child up for adoption if you feel, that's the right thing for yourself. And I just wanted to, tell everybody that my story, and there are good outcomes to an adoption, and there are good things that can happen from something that happened to me, or to, any other woman that goes through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is a positive thing, and it's nothing, that's why I want to share my story, because it's different,
Right.
and I believe people should know.
Exactly, and especially that it's an alternative to such a crazy thing. Like I would never sit and spew the politics of pro-choice, pro-life, all that stuff. But at the very least of it all, or the very extreme of it all, you can't tell me that giving a child to somebody who wants a child is worse than ending the child because of the circumstances at hand. Like it's way better in the end, for that child to get the love that they really do need, you know. And so that's why again it's important to tell stories that are have a happy ending so people have hope. Like, well, if you just let's say like I did, go on Google and just search adoption stories, adoption questions, and stuff like that. You know, a lot of times you're gonna read some really negative things, and it's just again I use the word heartbreaking again, but it's heartbreaking that um, like if you were to just try to research it even a little bit, you would see that there's a lot of negativity surrounding it, and that might turn people off from it. You know, that like, hey, it's easier just to go down the street to this place and take care of it in one day than go through all of the hoops that you know, and it does take work. Like it's not the easiest thing in the world, and it's the same as regular pregnancy, and it's the same everything along the way. It's all the same up until that moment where the switch happens. You know.
Yeah. And I did a little bit of research myself, because I wanted kind of to prepare myself for this, and I did some research on YouTube. I typed adoption story, and most of it was on the other side, like parents adopting a child. I didn't find anything from a birth mother.
That's a really great point. I didn't think of that, but yes, same thing. I saw a lot of if they weren't anonymous, like the women that had given the children up, if they weren't anonymous, it was generally from the and if they were great stories, they were generally great stories from the family that had adopted you. Like
Right.
how much that child has changed their life, or how much they like whatever the thing is that they've done. Um, the positivity comes from the other side of the situation. You
Right. Yeah, and that's why I chose to share my story. There's only a handful of people that I told in my life, and I realized that, you know what, it's time to grow, and it's time to share and let myself be the person that I am. And I am a birth mother, and I do have a child that was adopted, and that's just a part of my life.
Did you want to say his name that you gave him?
Yes. So he I gave him the name of Josiah Benjamin, and Josiah was just a name that stood out to me. I know it's a biblical name, but for some reason, this name just stuck to me. And Benjamin, I don't know. It just went along with it, and honestly, I think it's a great name for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is something not many people know is when you give a child up for adoption, you get your own birth certificate
Hmm.
with like your thing and all that before like his actual I guess given name like from the adoptive parents. So there's like two separate birth certificates,
Yeah.
one from the birth mother and then one from the adoptive parents, which is kind of weird because they're I would say for the most part detail wise it's all the same except for when it comes to the names.
The name, the given name.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, like,
Would it show you being the birth parent though
I don't,
on his original?
I don't know, honestly.
I would suspect that like again it shows like on yours, and then
Yeah.
on theirs it shows.
Yeah. Well, because at the hospital, you know how they give like the footprints oh, when they're first born, and it tells you like, oh, the birth of blah blah blah's name, and then it gives you like the name of the parents. Well, the hospital, I thought this was just a cute thing that they did. They put the name that I gave him, and then they put my name and also the adoptive parent's name. So it was just like our child, not just theirs and not just mine. It's our child.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. I thought that was something good that the hospital did.
That about it? I mean, I don't know. It's not like it's a story that is something like great detail, But it's just again, I'm very proud of you for telling it.
Yeah.
It takes a lot out of you, I know. I was holding back tears even now saying it because it's even with that like I say we got to break the stigma, but there's that stigma, So it's like the nerves go racing and everything, and it's not an easy story to tell. So like I said, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Love you very much, and I think it's a great thing to get your story out.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I mean, for anybody watching that's going through the same thing, it's hard at first, and it's still hard for me now, but I gave my child the love that he deserves, and he's loved everywhere, and I think I made the right decision, and I know for some women, they might feel lost or lonely, but there's other people going through the same thing. You're never alone. And there's so much help out there, reach out, talk to people, and if anybody has any comments or, anything to say, you're always welcome to talk to me
Mm-hmm.
because I've been through it, and I can share my story with you and tell you things that I felt and I currently still feel to this day, and I'll probably continue feeling it, and until who knows.
Mm-hmm. I think time heals all wounds. Like other than talking about it, it's something. It's in your head that like I don't feel like you should feel anything any negativity that you do feel. I don't think you should, but it's also like you're going to feel it regardless.
Yeah, of course.
Like I can tell you that it's not worth it to feel that way, but also like the weight is the weight. Like it affects you. And I don't know. Like I said, I think talking about it,
Yeah, yeah.
therapy or stuff like this, it just
Right.
it all adds to the bigger picture because the more you keep it bottled in, and another reason why I kind of pushed you to do this is when you keep stuff in, it eats at you more than anything else.
Yeah, it
And
really
and
does.
it doesn't benefit you at all. So it's like if keeping it inside doesn't benefit you at all and it only negatively affects you, it would be wise to actually just get it out there,
Yeah.
And like if there's any haters or anything, it's like, well, screw you.
Whatever,
The thing with people that have any negative comments is they don't understand, they can't relate, and if anything, they're scared too. Like there's no reason to ever hate on anybody for putting a child up for adoption or adopting or anything of that matter. And if you do have those feelings, like you need to get yourself checked out. Honestly, um, it's not proper because it's none of your business. And if it doesn't directly involve you in any way, then you just gotta stay out of it. Like people do things that have lifelong repercussions. Some are good though. Like this is a great example of a repercussion that, or I should say not a repercussion, but a consequence. Consequences can be good as well. So it's got everlasting great consequences.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I feel that this was the best decision that I made for him. It was. Would I take it back? I don't know. Like, do I regret putting him up for adoption? No, because I mean he's got the family that he has, and if it weren't to happen like the way it did, I don't know if I could have given him as much as
Right.
he has now. You know.
Mm-hmm. Again, going back to what I had said at the start of it is that kind of ultimatum I gave you. Like, yeah, it would have been. I'm sure things would have been fine, but then like you have like I'm sure that our daughter would have never been born. So that wouldn't have been a thing. But for our two boys, it's like you would have seen he would have seen firsthand like these two boys have like their dad that's so involved in their life and so like caring and does everything, and then he doesn't have any of that.
He just has his mom.
Right. So it's like it would. It's not like I would be doing it on purpose by any means, or that the boys would be doing it on purpose by any means. But it's like kids see what they see through their own filters, their own lenses, and like you can't control how they feel. So when he would see something like that, like it probably wouldn't be healthy for him mentally, to like where's my dad? Where's like obviously I asked you if he was involved and all, but one thing you didn't mention was the fact that when you had told him, he's just like, okay, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Like he had literally less than care to give.
Yeah. Nothing.
More that like it's just like why are you even bothering me,
Right.
And that's just not right. So I'm glad that he never has to worry about that,
No. He's got a great family, and you know, he's obviously got his adoptive parents, but he also has me.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's young and he doesn't understand, but I would hope that he knows who I am, and I know that they'll tell him about me, and we'll try and get together and see him, and you know, try to just make a big family out of this.
All right, guys. So before I finish up here, I'm gonna wind up putting this at the beginning. But I do apologize for this cough and breathing thing. I've been sick with salmonella for the past week, and it's been affecting my lungs pretty good. So I've been trying to push away the microphone and just get the story out there. But I just wanted to explain the awkwardness because I keep on seeing myself in the camera, and it's bothering me. So I had to mention it at some point. But I appreciate everybody watching
Yeah.
a lot. Appreciate that people are going to take the time and listen. If they do, thank you if you've gotten this far. Just it only is ever going to be a good thing. So
Yeah.
thank you guys, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.